X was a typical nobody with a book of fate as blank as his future until a girl slapped a magic bookmark into his book and he got the power to transform into any legendary hero. Now, he fights twisted fairy tales, slaps chaos tellers, and saves storybook hotties with his crew. But before any of this, a blonde girl is fighting a creepy monster that looks like it ran away from some weird version of Pokemon. She ends up beating the monster pretty badly and wins the fight. But then, the blonde suddenly changes and turns out she's actually a man. After that, the guy starts wondering how he will touch some milkers and who the girl was as he tries to find her in a forest. While he's looking around, he sees the same monster from before turning back into a person. Right then, Riene, Tao, and Shane show up. Rihanna walks over and uses her magic power on the guy. She then tells X that he's okay and there's nothing wrong with him. However, Tao tells X that these guys attack whenever they smell a scent of cheeks, and Rihanna believes he is right, as if she has seen a girl being attacked by a villain, she would fight as well. Suddenly, the injured man tries to explain something about Red Riding Hood, but X and his clueless group is too dumb to get what he's saying. The next day, they carry the man on Tao's back, and Rihanna tells X that the guy doesn't remember anything about being a bad guy. But then the man speaks up and says that the stuff written in his book of fate is starting to get all messed up. He asks if there's anything weird showing up in their book of fate too. Just then, the guy passes out and Tao says that being turned into a villain isn't doing him any favors either. However, Rihanna tells everyone that they have to find the Chaos Teller and restore everyone's fate to what it should be. Afterward, they arrive in the village and the locals asks them about who they are, but Rihanna tells them that they are travelers. But everyone starts looking at their book of fate but finds nothing. But then, an old woman speaks up and says that whatever is happening to them isn't written in the book of fate. Rihanna asks her about the girl they call Red Riding Hood. But the woman behind her says that her book of fate once said she would give birth to Red Riding Hood. After that, the old woman starts telling everyone the Red Riding Hood story and surprises them by saying she used to be Red Riding Hood herself. Right then, a guy who looks like a cheap version of Roman Reigns shows up and says that saving Red Riding Hood from the wolf's stomach is part of his fate. But X thinks that if that girl is the main character of this story's own, then the Chaos Teller has to be somewhere close to her. The IKEA clown says he'll go search for her again, and X tells him that he and his team want to go with him. They all decide to head back into the forest, and the guy starts sharing some details about the girl. But before they can get too far, they get attacked by a bunch of wolves. After dealing with that, they finally find the girl hiding in a nearby cave. Shane pulls out an old-fashioned lock rifle and hands it to Tao. At the same time, X asks the girl why she ran away last night, but the girl replies that he looks like one of Diddy's friends. X thinks to himself that this cave is actually a pretty good hiding place, and admits he's impressed with how well the girl managed to stay hidden in here. Just then, Tao and Shane show up and tell them that the hunter might have turned into the wolf because the Chaos Teller's power is growing stronger. The girl starts getting scared and tells them that she wants to go back home, but Tao says the forest is dangerous right now. Later on, the girl and X walk side by side, and X starts telling her about his childhood friend who always believed in their book of fate and worked really hard, so he's sure the girl will do her best too. He makes a promise that even if the wolf ends up eating her, they'll still do everything they can to save her. When they finally get to the village, everything feels weird and way too quiet. But then, the girl's mother suddenly shows up, except she looks like she's completely out of it, like she's high on something. The woman suddenly transforms into a villain, and right after that, a bunch of other villains surround them from all sides. But X and the others quickly run back toward the village, and the girl tells them that her grandma's house is a safe place. When they finally make it to the house, they find out it's completely empty, and even the bread sitting on the table is a week old. Shane asks the Red Riding Hood why the wine bottle in her basket isn't full and asks why she brought them here. She knows something is wrong with her. The girl suddenly smiles and says the reason she brought them there was because she plans to feed them to the wolf. Right after that, the whole house burst into flames. Even though it's on fire, everyone manages to escape just in time. But then, the girl uses the power of the Chaos Teller and summons a huge army of monsters. She tells them that the clown guy from earlier only got close to her mother to use her, and he's actually the wolf. After saying that, she transforms into a wolf-like creature herself. But even with all of this happening, X still wants to save her from the nightmare she's stuck in. X changes into his baddie form, and then Alice and the rest of the group all transform into their own special forms too. They start fighting off the monsters, but no matter how many they beat, more just keep coming. Then they face off against Red Riding Hood herself, and everyone uses their powers to battle her. X, who is now in Alice's form, uses his sword powers to finally defeat the girl. After that, X tells her that they should go back to the village. Rihanna then uses the magic from the book to fix the story and return it to the way it was meant to be. Right after that, the whole village goes back to normal, everything turns happy and peaceful again, just like before. After that, the group gets trapped in a thick fog, and Rihanna says she can still feel the presence of the Chaos Teller even inside the fog of silence. X is surprised and says he can't believe there are so many worlds hidden inside the fog, but Shane corrects him by saying they're not actually worlds, they're called story zones. Still, X believes that each story zone repeats the same story over and over again. Then Shane tells them that the only people who can move through the fog of silence are the ones who have been given a black book of fate. After that, they enter the next story zone, but they find themselves walking into another thick fog, which is a sign that the story zone is about to collapse. Right then, a bunch of monsters shows up, but before things get worse, a knight named Don suddenly appears and tells them to leave everything to him. But it turns out the knight is even worse than a kid pretending to do karate. He shows up and just falls flat on the ground. Meanwhile, X and the others manage to defeat all the monsters by themselves. After the fight, X walks up to the guy and introduces himself, but the strange old man suddenly asks if X remembers him, claiming to be his master. It's clear the old guy has kind of lost it, especially since even his own donkey ran off. After that, the group decides to follow the old Donkey Kong-looking man to go check out the nearby town. They finally arrive in the town and Don tells them that most people here haven't seen the Devil's Servants and then heads out to patrol the city. A pink-headed girl arrives and introduces herself as Dulcinea, but X couldn't stop staring at her flat milkers. She then tells them about Don, saying there lived an old freak in the land of La Mancha and all he did was read books about girls and believed himself that he was a knight. After hearing all that, Rihanna starts to believe that the knight might be the main character of this story zone. So, the group decides to split up and search around to learn more about Don and the story. Everyone tries their best to figure things out, but while looking around, X ends up running into Don again. Don says he still hasn't been able to find the Devil's Servants, but then X asks him why the people in the town keep calling him a liar. The old man just shrugs and says he's doing what he believes is right, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says about him. After that, he tells X to quit asking pointless questions and just go patrol the area. But when X checks his book of fate, he's shocked to see that it's completely blank. Afterward, X meets up with the rest of his team and he couldn't stop staring at Dulcinea's cupcakes and asks some freaky nun if she is really popular. The girl tells him that she came to this town right about the time the rumors of strange monsters started, and she volunteered to treat people's wounds and everyone calls her Holy Maiden with flat talons. Just then, someone shouts that monsters are coming and that they need to get out, but then Dawn arrives, saying they will stand here and defend the town. Suddenly, the sky gets filled with some strange energy, and all the villagers start stepping up to fight beside Dawn. X and the others also decide to help protect the city and believe in Dawn's courage. After a long and tough battle against the monsters, the villagers finally win, and everyone starts cheering and celebrating Dawn like a hero. Later that night, while the others stay in their rooms to rest, X decides to go out and take a walk around the city. While walking alone, someone asks what X is doing here late night and calls him a hero, but then says that the real hero was Dawn. The man replies that the Knight of La Mancha, who everyone looks up to, was only acting out a simple role and is really just a puppet. But X disagrees and says that Dawn is not a puppet. Right then, Rihanna shows up with Dulcinea, and the mysterious man suddenly disappears. Dulcinea then tells X that she isn't a real person, she was made from Dawn's imagination. Rihanna starts to think that Dawn's powerful wish to become a true hero is what gave birth to the Chaos Teller. However, Dulcinea explains that Dawn is planning to go to the place where everything begins with the windmill on the hill tomorrow. The next day, X and the others get ready and decide to follow Dawn. But suddenly, more villains show up and start causing trouble in the town. It turns out that the Chaos Teller connected itself to the windmill, which came from Dawn's imagination, to take shape. The windmill turns into a monster and starts attacking the town's wall, but then Dawn shows up just in time and saves a group of kids from being hurt. The windmill monster starts spinning its giant fan, and everyone quickly takes cover except for Dawn, who stays focused on trying to beat it. Even when he gets knocked down, he doesn't give up. X steps up and promises Dawn that he'll defeat the monster for him. X then transforms into his baddie form, Alice, and the others change into their special forms too. X struggles during the fight, but Rihanna helps by healing him. With her support, X transforms into Red Riding Hood and uses powerful fire abilities to attack the monster, setting it on fire and burning it down. After the monster is defeated, Dulcinea shows up and says she's just like the windmill monster, something that doesn't belong in this world. but Rihanna tells her that she's going to restore the story zone back to the way it's supposed to be, even if that means Dulcinea will disappear too. Dulcinea understands, and Rihanna uses her magic to return the world to its original state. Just then, Sancho shows up looking like a mukbang eater high on Pepsi. Meanwhile, X and the others realize that the Sancho they're seeing now is the real one. X tells them that the story zone has returned to its original form. He also shares that he ran into a man named Loki, the same person who once showed up in X's homeland and caused the same kind of chaos. In a flashback, it shows that when X is born, he is given a book including a script that has everything about his life written in it. This book is called the Book of Fate. Everyone follows the stories written in their books, all the way until the day they die. But sometimes, someone's book has blank pages, and X wonders what kind of role someone like that is meant to play. One day, while X is walking through the forest, he comes across a girl who is crying because her basket has fallen off a cliff. However, X helps her retrieve it, and afterward, the girl introduces herself as Cinderella. Later, X goes to the town with some pumpkins and delivers it safely for his uncle, and the woman who buys the vegetables from him knows him well. Another woman quietly tells Cinderella that X is the boy with no role and no fate. But Cinderella snaps back and insults her, saying she belongs in the kitchen. Meanwhile, the town gets excited as the prince's carriage passes by, but X doesn't care and just walks away. On his way, some kids start teasing him for being role-less. They show off their books, proudly pointing out the talks and events they're assigned to in their futures. X wonders why his book of fate is blank, but then he notices some witches mocking Cinderella for not washing clothes well enough. X greets her, and they go together to a nearby forest to spend some time alone. X asks if her mom and stepsisters are always mean like that, but Cinderella says they're actually much worse and that things were only nice for her when her real mother was still alive. Then she asks X about his own parents, and he tells her that he visited their graves that morning, which means his parents aren't alive either. However, X says his aunt and uncle are a little scared of him but quickly change the subject. Then he asks Cinderella about her fate. She tells him that when she turns 16, she will go to a ball at the castle and marry the prince, a story that X already knows well. However, Cinderella doesn't believe her book and wonders if this will actually come true or not. But X says that if her book says so, it will come true. He then tells her that he will help make her fate come true as he doesn't have a role himself. After that, X goes back home and overhears his aunt and uncle talking about him. His uncle says that when X is old enough to stand up for himself, he'll have a serious talk with him. At the same time, Cinderella gets treated worse than an animal, like she doesn't matter at all, while her stepsisters get new dresses and laugh at her because she doesn't have nice clothes or any style. As time goes on, X learns how to use a sword and keeps getting better, and he spends a lot of time with Cinderella, feeling happy around her even though she used to be treated like a maid. A few years go by, and X returns to the town, carrying the same old pumpkins as always. He spots a familiar woman crying again as she's upset because something happened that wasn't written in her book of fate. Her husband was attacked by a strange monster, and the book hadn't said anything about it. While wandering through town, X runs into Loki, the so-called traveling performer, who really just looks like a jobless clown who hopped up on too many candies. Loki tells X there's going to be a big festival in the city that night, along with a ball at the castle. Later, X runs into Cinderella and congratulates her on her fate coming true. She thanks him for his kind words, but deep down, she doesn't actually believe her life will change, even if she's meeting the prince. After their talk, X heads back home, where his uncle finally tries to bring up a conversation about X's future, but X asks him to wait until tomorrow. X wonders that once Cinderella and Prince will marry, his role will be fulfilled, but he doesn't know what's next. Later that night, he grabs his sword and runs into the forest after hearing a woman screaming who is stuck under a tree. He runs into a girl who transforms and a bunch of weird monsters who tries to attack him. However, the girl tells him that she can handle them, and he should run, but he doesn't want to go. The girl then gives him a bookmark of guidance and puts it in his blank book of fate and shout connect. X does exactly what she told him to do and suddenly changes into a different person, feeling surprised and wondering what just happened. Right away, he slashes one of the monsters and notices that it has gotten slower. Then he changes back into his normal self, and he finds out that the girl is actually Rihanna. She explains to him that the monsters are called villains, and then she starts walking toward the castle. Meanwhile, Cinderella gets dressed and waits for her fairy godmother to show up. At the same time, Rihanna talks to X and explains that story zones are places made by the storyteller. After that, X asks her why she's going to the castle and how she knows that his book of fate has nothing written in it. but she just tells him that she's searching for the main character, someone who's a hero and saves others. Meanwhile, the fairy godmother shows up in front of Cinderella and changes her into someone wearing beautiful clothes. Then she creates a carriage so Cinderella can go to the castle, and it turns out that Cinderella is actually the main character of this story zone. But Rihanna tells X that Cinderella is in danger because the Chaos Teller is always close to the main character, and it's a scary creature that ruins and destroys story zones. After that, Cinderella enters the castle and finds a bunch of villains standing right in front of her. X tries to run and save her, but Tao grabs his leg, making him fall to the ground. Rihanna tells him that sneaking into the castle all by himself won't help and might even be too late. It turns out that the Chaos Teller's power is spreading as the villains slowly start to invade the town. Tao tells X it's a good thing he didn't go alone, or he would have been surrounded right away. Then Shane looks at X and jokes that if he wants to save her that badly, maybe this girl is actually his girlfriend. However, X says that it's not like that as he promised to help make her fate come true. But Tao believes that he was planning to get her milkers and rice cakes. X replies that someone can't change what's in the Book of Fate, but Rihanna says that they can if their Book of Fate is blank. However, if X does that, his friend Cinderella will stop being the main character of her own story and might end up going through even more pain than she already has. Rihanna says they need to find the Chaos Teller as soon as possible, but X asks what a Chaos Teller even is. Tao explains that it's someone who changes people's books of fate and turns them into villains. But Shane adds that people like them, who have blank books, don't get affected by the Chaos Teller's power. Hearing that, X realizes that they are also just like him. Meanwhile, Cinderella is resting with her head on the fairy godmother's lap, and the godmother tells her that the stepmother and stepsisters who treated her badly have now become her slaves. Sitting beside them is Loki, who says that Cinderella doesn't need to suffer anymore. Then the godmother explains that her job was always to cast a spell on the girl chosen to be Cinderella and turn her into a princess. But over the years, many Cinderellas have still ended up unhappy even after becoming queens. So, this time, she says she's going to change her role and do whatever it takes to make sure Cinderella stays happy. On the other hand, X tries to convince everyone to let him come along with them, but they all say no, everyone except Rihanna, who stands up for him and says he's strong enough. After that, Rihanna opens her floating book, which is called the Walled Garden Kingdom, and it's something they need in order to tune the world. Then a mirror comes out of the book, and Rihanna tells X to show her the bookmark she gave him. When he does, a picture suddenly appears on it and everyone is shocked by what they see. Rihanna explains that X has the wild crest, which means he can connect with any hero he wants. But then, the mirror brings out a new hero from deep within the soul of whoever looks into it, and when X takes a look, the hero that appears turns out to be Alice. After that, they head to the town and start fighting the villains, and before the battle begins, each of them connects with their own hero, including X, who links with his baddie partner, Alice. Together, they use their special powers and manage to defeat all the villains. But when the villains turn back into the regular townspeople, X starts to worry about what's going to happen. Tao tells him not to stress because Rihanna will do her tuning, and everything will go back to normal again. After that, X runs ahead to save Cinderella while the rest of the group gets ambushed by a bunch of villains. Rihanna follows behind him and warns that if the Chaos Teller is really there, X won't be able to stop it alone. Just then, Loki shows up and starts going on about how Chaos Tellers are actually good people. But X looks at him and asks who this guy even is, and it turns out Loki is the one who creates all the Chaos Tellers. He suddenly disappears just as Tao and Shane show up, saying he'll be waiting for them behind the door. When they open the door, they're shocked to find a bunch of villains inside, and it turns out that all the guests at the castle have been turned into villains. The fairy godmother shows up and says she's there to protect Cinderella, but X tells her that Cinderella has been waiting her whole life for this moment. The fairy godmother gets angry after hearing that, and suddenly she changes into a scary-looking joker. It turns out she is actually the Chaos Teller, and it had matched with the pain in the fairy godmother's heart and ended up taking control of her. Right away, X and the others transform into their heroes and charge forward to fight her. At first, X struggles, but then he gets his powers from Shane and then charges at the fairy godmother with his sword and kills her. Afterward, X runs to save Cinderella, saying everything will be back to normal and her life will be just like what the book said. After that, Rihanna gets ready to start tuning the world, but before she begins, she tells X that once it's done, everyone will forget what happened, and even she won't remember that he saved her from the nightmare. Then Rihanna starts the tuning, and everything goes back to normal. Cinderella marries the prince and lives happily ever after. Right after that, X shows up and says he wants to join the team, and they all smile and happily welcome him in. After that, they all head out to hang out by the sea, but X has no clue what a sea even is and wonders where all the water came from. Rihanna explains that it's called the sea and it's way bigger than any lake. Tao suddenly takes off his clothes in front of his baddies to show off his huge monster. After seeing that, X takes off his clothes too, and the two of them have fun splashing around in the water. But while they're enjoying themselves, Tao and X spot a guy floating in the sea along with some broken pieces of a ship. The guy introduces himself as Silver and says he's been searching for a place called Treasure Island, and it turns out they're already on Treasure Island. After that, Silver explains that his ship was heading straight for Treasure Island, but just when they saw it appear on the horizon, monsters suddenly jumped out of the sea. In the end, no one survived the attack except for him. Silver then says that even his book of fate didn't mention anything about what happened. However, X asks what the book did say. So, Silver explains that a long time ago, there was a scary pirate named Flint who stole every treasure he could get his hands on, and when his end was near, he hid himself away on a certain island. For years, no one could ever find where Flint's treasure was. But one day, a boy got his hands on a map showing where it was hidden, and Silver's book of fate said he was supposed to help that boy. Hearing that, Shane realizes that this must be the plot of this story's own, and Rihanna asks him if the boy with the map goes down with the ship, and turns out he did. Afterward, the man stands up and goes for his mission, saying men are meant for the adventures. However, Tao grabs his arm and says he will help him along with his useless clown team. On their way, Rihanna says that Silver himself came here from a distance, and rather than arriving at port in this story, they were here, which means the Chaos Teller is on this island. Silver then shows them the map that the boy had, but he admits he doesn't understand what all the strange symbols on it mean. Still, he believes Flint knew there were traps on the island, so he marked certain paths with an X to warn others. Tao quickly tells everyone not to touch anything, but it's already too late. Rihanna has accidentally pulled a string. Suddenly, a giant rock ball starts rolling straight at them, and they all begin running for their lives. Everyone manages to reach a safe spot, except Rihanna, who trips and falls right in front of the rolling ball. But luckily, the rock crashes into another boulder and bounces away, just missing her. Afterward, Tao freaks out at her for touching something like that. Then he asks Silver where the treasure is, and he points it on the map, saying it's to the north. However, they realize they can't use the ship, so the southern beach where Silver washed up is the only way in or out of the island. That means they'll have to walk across the whole island. As they start moving, they come across all sorts of strange things, including a suspicious-looking bridge. Rihanna almost touches something again, but Silver quickly stops her before she makes another mistake. He checks the map carefully and figures out that it's not a trap this time. As soon as he says it's safe, Rihanna takes off running across the bridge, and the rest follow her, and they all manage to cross. Suddenly, Shane tells everyone that she saw some movement around, and everyone wonders if it's a villain or a chaos teller. But the noise turns out to be just some birds messing around, and eventually the group makes it to the beach. As usual, Rihanna tries something odd as she picks a strange-looking fruit without thinking. That turns out to be a trap, and suddenly a bunch of arrows start raining down on them from hidden spots. After dodging the danger, Shane stumbles upon a boy hiding in a nearby cave. Curious, Shane asks why he was running, and the boy nervously says it's because of Silver. Soon after, X and the rest of the group catch up, but as they enter the cave, the entrance suddenly slams shut. It was all part of Silver's plan. Trapped inside, the boy finally confesses that Silver isn't just a sailor, he's actually the monster. He survived the shipwreck by jumping off the ship and has been tricking them ever since. Rihanna thinks that if they don't have the blank book, the boy would have already turned them into villains by now. After that, Shane uses her gunpowder to blow up a bomb on the entrance, and the door opens with a loud blast. When they go outside, they see a giant battleship right in front of them, and the boy runs toward it fast. He finds a lot of treasure inside and grabs all the gold. But once he does, he turns into a villain because it's all part of Silver's plan. X and the others change into their forms, but they all end up wearing clown suits, and Silver is also dressed like an expired fish. After that, they all get into a huge fight with Silver, and in the end, they manage to defeat him. Then Tao asks Rihanna to restore everything back to its original state. At the same time, in a scary old castle, a weird woman stands in front of a dusty mirror. She says a strange poem and asks the mirror who is the prettiest of them all. The mirror answers that she is the prettiest right now. The woman laughs in a creepy way and asks if it's really true. The mirror says it is true, at least for now, and then the mirror shows a picture of her daughter and says that one day, her daughter will be even prettier than her. When the woman hears this, she gets really mad and starts to feel angry at her daughter. Meanwhile, X and the others arrive at a different story zone and start wondering if there might be a chaos teller hiding somewhere nearby. X questions why they even ended up in this place, and it turns out that their arrival here was just a coincidence. But then Tao says that if they don't have any specific purpose or mission to complete here, there's really no reason for them to stick around. Plus, since they're carrying blank books with them, no one can really predict what kind of effect those books might end up having on the events. Suddenly, they hear someone in the bushes and then someone jumps onto X's head, saying they found him. After that, all sorts of annoying kids wrapped around X. When Rihanna sees that, she totally freaks out because she sees 7 kids who all look exactly the same. The kids suddenly call their Prince X and drag him away to some chick's house. There, they tell him that he has to save Snow White, who is the girl sleeping nearby. Right after that, the kids start messing around with X again, poking him and being loud. Just then, Tao and the others burst into the room and see X holding onto the girl's horns. However, Snow White wakes up and calls X her prince and hugs him, saying she has been waiting for him. She then starts going crazy over X's face and asks how they should do their wedding. Later on, the kids explain that Snow White ate a poisoned apple and had been asleep for a long time. They say the only way to wake her up is with a prince's kiss. After that, they tell Rina a story. They say that once upon a time, there was a princess named Snow White. But one day, her mother, the queen, got jealous of how pretty she was and threw her out into the forest. That's where she found the 7 Suberks, who are the same kids standing in front of them now. After that, the kids say Snow White lived happily with the Suberks for a while, but then the queen showed up again and gave her a poisoned apple, putting her into a deep sleep. The Suberks explain that on the day of Snow White's wedding, the queen is supposed to be punished by wearing shoes made of burning iron. When Tao and the others hear this, they start thinking if they can just go back and leave. But Snow White stops them and says she already kissed X and even gave him her first time, so now he has to take responsibility and stay with her. After that, Rihanna thinks the safest plan is to take Snow White back to the castle and start everything over from there. Surprisingly, the girl agrees, but only if X comes along with her. While they are walking, X asks why her mother would do something so awful to her. Snow White quietly replies that the queen is actually her stepmother, and even though she did those things, she still loves her deeply. She says that her stepmother once told her that one day she might grow to hate her and even try to kill her, and after saying that, they hugged. Rihanna, meanwhile, makes a plan in her head. As soon as they get Snow White back to the castle safely, they'll leave the story zone as fast as possible. After that, they arrive at the castle and the queen shows up at the gate. Snow White introduces X and the others to her, saying that X is her prince and the others are his loyal followers. The queen smiles and invites all of them to stay at her place. Rihanna is the first one to walk inside without hesitation. While everyone is getting settled, the queen secretly thinks about giving Snow White another poisoned apple so everything can go back to the way it used to be. Later, X and the others are served a bunch of tasty food, and they eat all of it. After they finish, the queen brings out a big dessert with shiny red apples on it. As soon as they see it, everyone freezes and looks nervous, everyone except Rihanna, who doesn't think twice and starts eating them right away. The queen then looks at Snow White and quietly asks if she hates her, but Snow White shakes her head and says she doesn't. She tells the queen that she loves her, and no matter how many poisoned apples she eats, she will never stop loving her. Hearing that, the queen's heart slowly begins to soften, and tears start falling from her eyes. She asks Snow White to forgive her and says it was the mirror that made her feel jealous in the first place. After that, they hug each other tightly. Watching this, Rihanna starts to wonder why the curse of the poisoned apple didn't work on Snow White. She thinks maybe X woke her up before the curse could fully take over. The next day, X and the others says their farewell to Snow White and Queen. After that, X and the others walk around a snowy area, with cold wind blowing everywhere, and Rihanna can't stop sneezing. At this rate, she thinks they might all freeze to death before they even find the Chaos Teller. But then, right in front of them, they spot a girl lying on the snow. X quickly runs over to her and the girl keeps calling out the name Kai while shivering. Just then, the wind starts blowing even harder, making it hard to see. Luckily, they spot a small wooden house nearby and head toward it. They knock at the gate and a white-haired baddie opens the door. X quickly tells her that they're just travelers and they found this girl lying on the ground outside. The white-haired woman says the girl can't see but she can hear the truth. The girl then says it's a small house but she still wants them to come inside. Once they're in, Rihanna checks on the girl and tells X that her breathing has calmed down. But just then, the girl suddenly wakes up, sits up fast and starts freaking out. She yells and asks if there are robbers who came to attack her cave. The girl quickly apologizes for thinking they were robbers, saying she's just met all kinds of people on her journey somewhere nice, but others were robbers or even an old witch. Rihanna asks her to explain more, so the girl begins to tell her story. She says that she and a boy named Kai lived in a village far to the south, and they had always been like brother and sister since they were little kids. But one day, something terrible happened. A cursed mirror shard got stuck in Kai's eye, and after that, he started acting cold and distant, like he wasn't the same person anymore. Then one day, out of nowhere, the Snow Queen came and took him away. So, that's why the girl was out searching for the icy palace where the Snow Queen is said to live. She had been trying to find Kai all this time, but her body gave out and she collapsed in the snow. Hearing all this, Tao suddenly realizes the truth. This place they're in right now is the Snow Queen's story zone. Afterward, the white-head baddie cooks some food for them and Shane finds her food delicious that she couldn't stop eating. After that, the girl asks if they've ever come across anything strange or unusual during their travels. Tao takes the chance to start flirting with her, trying to act cool. Meanwhile, Gerda says she needs to go find Kai right away, but Shane tells her to calm down and eat something first. The white-haired woman then says that to reach the Snow Queen's palace, Gerda has to go through a forest filled with deep snow. Hearing that, Gerda quickly asks if she actually knows where the palace is. The white-haired girl says that everyone knows about it but warns her that anyone who gets too close to the palace ends up frozen alive. The next day, everyone leaves the little cabin together to help Gerda find her brother, Kai. As they walk through the thick snow, someone realizes that they never even asked for the name of the white-haired girl who let them stay in her house. Suddenly, the weather takes a turn for the worse. The snowstorm gets even stronger as they get closer to the Snow Queen's palace. Rihanna realizes that the Snow Queen is using her powerful magic to control the blizzard around them. After pushing through the storm, they finally reach the snowy castle. There, Kai comes walking out to meet them. He looks at Gerda and says that he told her not to come. However, he tells her to leave immediately, but Shan refuses, saying they are not leaving. However, Gerda tells Kai that as long as someone fulfills the contract, he can come back. To prove it, she uses her magic on Shane and says she'll stay in Kai's place instead. Watching this, Rihanna suddenly realizes the truth. The mirror shard didn't hit Kai at all, it hit Gerda. That's why she doesn't even understand why she's so desperate to save him. Before anyone can say anything else, the Snow Queen becomes furious and slams the ground with her power, causing it to break apart. Everyone begins to fall underground, but right in time, Shane uses her Connect transformation and grabs Gerda, saving her from falling. After that, Tao and the rest of the group catch up with them in the broken chamber below, and Tao immediately turns on Gerda, furious that she has put his sister Shane's life in danger with her sudden choice. Shane steps forward and tells her brother to hold his tongue, because she understands how strong a brother-sister bond can be, and she trusts Gerda's heart. Then they walk through the winding tunnel that runs directly beneath the Snow Queen's castle until they reach a vast underground hall. There, Kai emerges from the shadows and tells them in a cold voice that they have set foot on the Snow Queen's most sacred grounds. Gerda begs Kai to come home with her, but Kai replies that he cannot leave, he must stay here and fulfill his contract with the Snow Queen. But Tao gets really mad and asks what the contract is actually about. He wants to know the truth. Kai tells him that it's the only thing he can do if he wants to stay with the Snow Queen forever in her ice palace. He explains that if he agrees, the Snow Queen will take the piece of the cursed mirror out of Gerda's eye. Just then, Gerda runs up to Kai, and Shane quickly steps in. He tells Gerda that it's not the Snow Queen who will remove the curse, it's him. Shane also tells Kai that his memories are what helped Gerda keep going, and that he should try talking to her to help bring her back. He starts talking to Gerda about when they were kids and the roses they used to grow back then. As he speaks, he gives her a hug and tells her that he will always stay by her side. Right after that, the shard of the cursed mirror slowly comes out of her eye and disappears completely. A moment later, the Snow Queen shows up and says she can't let them take Kai because he has the purest heart she has ever seen. Then the group joins with their heroes, changes form and begins to fight the Snow Queen. Even though the battle is tough, they finally defeat the Snow Queen. After that, a girl with white hair shows up and says that she's the one who created the Chaos Teller. Right then, Loki appears too and says sorry to her. The girl tells them her name is Curly, and after that, she and Loki both disappear. Once they're gone, Rihanna steps forward and returns the world back to the way it was before everything changed. After that, there's a flashback showing a moment between Shane and Tao. In it, Tao asks Shane if she's ever heard of a place where people like them who have blank books can go. Shane answers by saying she thinks that anyone who goes outside might end up surrounded by a deep fog. Tao then tells her that they should go together, because even if one person might get lost in the fog, if two people hold hands, they won't be separated and can find their way through it. Back in the present, X and the others arrive on an island and start to wonder if a chaos teller is nearby. Rihanna feels sure that one is close. Just then, Tao suddenly gets very angry as he remembers something from before, but he tries to push the feeling away. Out of nowhere, they hear a boy screaming for help. When they look, they see him surrounded by a group of villains. Tao rushes in and transforms into a hero and quickly defeats the enemies around him. X asks why Tao calls the boy Mamataro, and Shane explains that Mamataro is the main character in a story from the place where Tao and she were born. After hearing that, X starts to understand that this is Mamataro's story. The story goes like this: as a kind old couple who lives together in a quiet village. One day, the old man goes up into the mountains to collect firewood, while the old woman walks to the river to wash clothes. As she is washing, something strange happens. A huge peach comes floating down the river. The woman is surprised and brings the peach home. When the old couple opens the peach, they find a baby boy inside. But when Mamataro grows up, he takes the millet dumplings with him and sets off on a journey to Onigashima. Tao then asks him about the dog, the monkey, and the pheasant, the three animals who are supposed to help him on his journey. Mamataro tells her that they all left him because they thought he was a low-life loser. Tao wonders if the Oni might be working together with the Chaos Teller, or if maybe someone who lives on Onigashima has somehow turned into the Chaos Teller themselves. X asks Tao if he knows anyone they can go to for help, hoping there might be someone who understands what's going on. But Tao explains that time moves differently inside the story zone compared to the outside world, and a lot of time has already passed since they were last here. Because of that, it's hard to say if anyone they knew is still around or would even remember them. After talking it through, they decide that before heading straight to Onigashima, it would be smarter to first find and take down the Oni's hidden village, since that might help them weaken the enemy's power. After that, they watch over the village where the Oni are getting their boats ready to attack. Then, the Onayam shows up, and Mamataro thinks she must be the princess of the Oni, so he says they need to crush her. He charges at the Oni, but the monster runs away. Right after that, he turns and runs straight toward the Onayam to attack her, but Tao quickly steps in and attacks Mamataro, stopping him. After that, X and the others arrive, and Shane asks her about the boat. She explains that the boats represent their hope, and that they've already lost too many people in the past. Now, all they want is to rebuild their everyday lives and find some peace again. Tao tells her that they want to help and says he will go with her to Onigashima. But later, when Mamataro wakes up, he looks around and realizes that no one else is on the island with him. Mamataro finds an old man who tells him that Tao is actually dangerous and has a terrible past, so he shouldn't be trusted. Meanwhile, the group reaches the island and Onayam says there's a big village on the island where some Oni might still be alive. She tells her clowns to stay behind and watch the boat while she goes with X and the others. As they walk, they see smoke rising in the distance and Onayam says that's where the village is, but just then, Mamataro shows up and says he's the one who set the fire. He starts laughing and shows off his new villain army, revealing that he turned the Oni into villains. Onayam decides to return to her friends, but Mamataro tries to block her. Tao steps in and stops him, but then Mamataro tells everyone that Tao is the one who killed the last Mamataro. Even after hearing that, everyone chooses to believe in Tao, saying there's no way he could ever betray anyone. Tao then begins telling his story. He says there was once a boy who didn't have any role given by the storyteller, but he always dreamed of helping the main character someday. So, he trained hard, and one day he met Mamataro. He begged to be his partner, and Mamataro agreed. They became a team, but then one day, Mamataro died right in front of him. Suddenly, the villains following Mamataro stop listening to him because they sense weakness in his heart. Then, the old man from before shows up again. But this time it's clear he's actually the monster with two faces. He's the Chaos Teller. At that moment, X and the others connect with their heroes, and together they fight back. In the end, they manage to defeat the monster, and Rihanna uses her tuning powers to return the world back to how it was before. After that, the group arrives in a brand new story zone, and this time in the middle of a burning hot desert. The sun beats down on them and they can't even find a single drop of water to drink. Everyone is tired and thirsty, but Rihanna the hungry cow feels it the most and eventually falls to the ground from exhaustion. Just then, a creepy guy suddenly showed up holding some water. He walks over and asks Rihanna if she wants to drink it. He introduces himself as Aladdin, saying he's a lone traveler who wanders through the desert by himself. After Rihanna drinks the water, X looks through her things and realizes that her Walled Garden Kingdom book is gone. It turns out that Aladdin secretly stole it while no one was paying attention. But soon, the group finds Aladdin holding the missing book and Rihanna gets so mad that she slaps him harder than any plane crash. Instead of getting upset, Aladdin enjoys it. He even begs Rihanna to bury him alive and hit him again. Then, he asks Rihanna to tell him her name. After that, he starts telling a strange story about a sultan who took a magical lamp. He begins to explain his past, saying there was once a man named Aladdin who got tricked by a wicked wizard. The wizard locked him inside a dark cave and left him trapped. Aladdin was helpless at first, but then he found an old lamp hidden deep inside the cave. When he rubbed the lamp, a powerful genie came out. The genie could grant any wish, so Aladdin used it to escape from the cave and become rich. But after people started hearing rumors about the lamp's magic, the sultan became greedy and stole it from him. X asks him about his Book of Fate and Aladdin replies that his Book of Fate said he would get his lamp back and marry a baddie. It turns out that this story zone is also nearing collapse, and then they hurry towards the sultan, but as time passes by, they feel gold, but Rihanna tells them not to rest when the story zone is almost collapsing. After that, Rihanna suddenly faints from all the heat and stress, so the group finds a nearby fire oasis and sits down to rest. As they sit around, Aladdin starts to wonder out loud why Rihanna is so determined to keep going. Even though things are so hard, Tao decides to answer him and explains that Rihanna wants revenge on the Chaos Tellers because they ruined her home. He continues to tell Aladdin that Rihanna used to be a princess in a certain story zone. She had a blank book, just like the others, but still lived a happy life. Everything was peaceful until a guy named Loki came along and destroyed her kingdom, turning her world upside down and leaving her with nothing but the need to fight back. Right then, a bunch of villains starts coming toward them, and X and the others quickly change into their hero forms and fight back. Beating the villains, Aladdin tries to protect Rihanna by using his stick, but she wakes up just in time and takes down the villain on her own. Suddenly, another villain shows up and goes to attack Rihanna, but Aladdin jumps in front of her and takes the hit. After that, Aladdin dies. The next day, X says they should try doing tuning, but Tao explains they still can't bring him back. Rihanna says it won't bring back the Aladdin they knew, but someone like him will take his place as the main character. However, X says that maybe the magic lamp can bring Aladdin back. After that, they go to the castle and see Loki waiting outside. Loki tells them that the Sultan is the Chaos Teller. Then Loki uses the genie from the magic lamp to pull the whole group into the castle. He shows off and says that everything in this world, even the bad guys and the magic lamp, now belongs to him. After that, Loki gives the genie a command to fight and beat the group, but the group uses their powers to connect with the heroes from the snow zone. After that, they fight the genie, but the genie splits into two copies. Rihanna remembers that Aladdin once said the genie gets mad easily, so she suggests they try to make him angry by saying rude things to him. While that's happening, X charges toward Loki, but he uses his powers on X. However, X fights back with his own powers, and during the battle, the lamp falls to the ground. After that, the story zone starts to break apart and Rihanna chooses to start the tuning without asking the genie to bring Aladdin back, because she believes he made his own choice. Then, she begins the tuning and everything returns to the way it was before. After that, the group enters a different timeline where the Jills explains that their homeland, France, is stuck in an endless war with England. Soon, the English army shows up and surrounds Orleans, an important city in the middle of France. But then, the French army arrives, led by one young girl, and that girl is Jeanne d'Arc, who will later be known as the Maid of Orleans. However, X feels like it wasn't the English who surrounded Orleans this time, but Jill says that's exactly why they're getting ready for battle. It turns out this is the story zone of Jeanne d'Arc, and Jeanne is the main character here and she's really popular. X says they need to find the Chaos Teller as soon as they can. Later on, Jeanne gives a speech to the people, telling them that they've taken their home back from the demons and that God is on their side. Meanwhile, X stares at her and realizes that she is not much older than them, and everyone starts making fun of X, saying he might be in love with her. Suddenly, X spots Curly in the crowd, but then he shakes it off, thinking he's probably just imagining things. Later on, the red-haired old man and Jeanne start planning something for the upcoming battle. The red-haired man tells her that once their forces are ready, they will begin the attack. He also says that his Book of Fate has told him they will win in the next battle. Just then, Rihanna steps into their conversation and Tao says it wouldn't be fair for them to help only one country over the other, and Jeanne understands and thanks them for all the help they've given so far. After their meeting, X hurries up to talk to Jeanne and Rihanna quietly wonders if X might end up getting too involved in this story. X asks Jean if her book of fate says she'll lead France to victory, but Jean replies that no matter what the ending is, she'll keep moving forward for the sake of her country. Then she walks away. Outside, X overhears some soldiers talking about a girl who eats like 10 men, and he finds Curly eating a big meal. He asks her if the Chaos Teller is also in this story zone, but she responds by asking why he's so worried about Jean's fate. Curly tells X that he doesn't really know how Jean's story ends and explains that she'll be executed by the British in Rouen, and her own homeland, France, will turn its back on her. Curly says she's telling the truth, even though she's blind, because her eyes can still catch glimpses of the flow of fate in every story zone. Then she looks at X and asks what he wants to protect more, Jean's life or her fate, but before he can say anything, she disappears. Later that night, Shane talks to Tao and says that X seems obsessed with Jean. But Tao replies that he understands, because he remembers how it feels to admire an amazing main character. Meanwhile, X quietly visits Jean's room again, still feeling uneasy about something in her fate. He tells her that something about it just doesn't sit right with him. Jean calmly explains that she already knows she will be burned at the stake after being declared a heretic. X then asks her if she's afraid. Jean says that she isn't afraid of dying, but what truly scares her is the thought of failing to achieve what she believes in. She shares that she dreams of a world where her homeland is finally united, and everyone can live together in peace. Suddenly, the Chaos Teller shows up and throws a strange kind of power straight at Jean. But X quickly jumps in front of her and takes the hit instead. Right after that, the Chaos Teller goes after Jean too, trying to hurt her. Just then, Rihanna and the others rush in to help, and X tells Rihanna that the Chaos Teller plans to execute Jean at Mew. The next day, Tao, Rihanna, and Shane decide to follow General Jills while X stays behind to rest in his room. But after a while, X wakes up and sees Curly standing next to him. She says she's there to ask him a few questions. She brings up his wild crest, a special power that lets him connect with any hero, and asks what he plans to do with it. Then she tells him that no matter what he does, it won't change anything, because unlike the people with blank pages, normal ones can never escape the fates that the storyteller has already written for them. Curly goes on to say that the Church of Fordham is made up of people who all have blank books, just like him. Their goal is to free everyone from the control of the storyteller. She tells him that if he truly wants to save others, he should consider joining them. Meanwhile, Tao and the others are getting close to Mew, and as they move forward, they all feel the absence of X and quietly miss having him around. Shane wonders if, after they defeat the Chaos Teller and break the curse, they will keep traveling with X. But Tao tells him that's not something they should be worrying about right now. Meanwhile, X gets up from his bed, determined to save Jean, but he struggles because of his curse. Then, Curly steps in and removes the curse from him, and X leaves the palace to save Jean. Meanwhile, the group runs into Jills, who seems to be injured, and tells everyone that he was ambushed by demons, and his unit was wiped out. Later, Jean is about to be hanged while the group fights the Chaos Teller using their hero forms. Just in time, X arrives and saves Jean. After that, they all transform into new forms and work together to defeat the Chaos Teller. Once the battle is over, X says goodbye to Jean, and she asks him to carry her feelings with him until the end. Then, Rihanna uses her tuning to return the story zone to its original state. Afterward, the groups go to another story zone where a freak and a girl who seems like she sell her talents for some cash invites Rihanna for some mad tea party. X is confused by the sudden appearance of two clowns as they enter the new story zone, but before he can figure it out, another baddie shows up and declares that the clowns are under arrest. When Rihanna sees her, she immediately recognizes the woman as Alice, the same hero that X often connects with. Rihanna is so stunned by Alice's beauty that she can't help but gush a little, and that's when she realizes that they've entered the Wonderland story zone. After the mysterious girl and guy vanish, Alice turns to Rihanna and asks if she's also a member of the Mad Tea Club. Rihanna quickly denies it, saying she has no idea what that even is. Soon after, Tao, Shane, X, and Rihanna make a run for it, trying to escape the situation. While running, they bump into two quirky strangers who turn out to be part of the Mad Tea Club. These two reveal that Alice and her army are known as the Disciplinarians of Maidenhood. Curious, Rihanna asks if the two strangers are the Mad Hatter and the March Hare, and sure enough, that's exactly who they are. After that, the Mad Hatter and March Hare begin explaining things to the group. They tell them that Alice is a real pain to deal with and suggest that they should ditch her side and join the Mad Tea Club instead. But Shane flat out refuses, clearly not interested in switching sides so easily. Later on, as things settle down a bit, X turns to Rihanna and asks if she knows the story of Alice in Wonderland. Rihanna nods and begins to explain. She tells them that there once was a girl named Alice who loved to imagine wild, strange things because the books her sister read to her were so boring. They almost put her to sleep. But one day, Alice heard a strange noise, and when she looked, she saw a rabbit wearing clothes and carrying a watch. Curious, she chased after it, and when the rabbit disappeared down a hole, she followed it and ended up falling into an entirely different world. At the same time, a woman asks Alice nicely to be kind to someone who was only daydreaming about talents while working. Alice believes it is still wrong and says that, according to the rules, it counts as a crime and can't be ignored. Then, the group shows up and Rihanna steps forward, saying she wants to see what Alice is really like behind her face. Rihanna starts making fun of her, saying that grown-up women don't eat strange cakes to grow tall and don't forget about their big sisters just to follow rabbits and fall into deep holes. Alice suddenly feels nervous and wonders how Rihanna knows about those strange and dark things from her past. Rihanna looks at her and asks if she would like her to tell everyone about it. A few moments later, the annoying people from before showing up again and grab Alice, saying they are not really taking her by force but are just inviting her to join their Mad Tea Party Club. X and the others start chasing after the people who took Alice, but even after looking everywhere, they can't find her. Only the creepy guy is there. Everyone quickly surrounds him and asks where Alice is, but he keeps quiet and refuses to say anything. So, Shane decides to try her special method, which is to make him laugh so hard that it drains all the cream out of him. After laughing and giving up, the guy finally agrees to lead them to the secret place where the others are hiding. When they reach the hideout, they find that March Hare is also hiding there with Alice. But as soon as the guy opens the door, a girl runs toward him crying and says that Alice wouldn't drink the tea she made and then went inside the cave. After that, the group hurries over to Alice, and Rihanna gently tells her that when she was a little girl, Alice's story helped her and gave her hope. She then asks if they can sit together and talk while eating some cookies. Alice and Rihanna spend some time sharing stories from their past, and Alice feels really happy and amazed by how fun it is. But their peaceful moment doesn't last long because suddenly they are surprised by Alice's assistant, who shows up with her army. The assistant tells her soldiers to arrest Alice, saying that she is the new captain now. But instead of taking Alice away, the army grabs the leader of the Mad Tea Club. He starts shouting and crying that he doesn't want to go to court or face any kind of trial. Tao gets curious and asks what a trial means, so March Hare explains that it's when someone is taken in front of the Queen of Hearts, who always gives the death sentence, no matter what. After hearing this, the group heads toward the Queen's castle with a plan to defeat her once and for all. When they get there, they turn into their hero forms, ready to fight. The creepy Queen of Hearts keeps attacking again and again, but they all stay strong and stand bravely in front of her. During the battle, X connects with Jean, and together they use their power to finally defeat the Queen of Hearts. After the fight ends, Rihanna says goodbye to Alice and tells her that it's time to return the world back to how it was before. So, Rihanna takes the lead and begins tuning the world back to its original state. However, they realize that the tuning didn't work and they find Mad Hatter sitting on the throne and he transforms into a dragon. After that, a dragon appears and welcomes them to the world of the Looking Glass, calling it the home of the Priestess of Tuning and her team. When the group hears this, they are surprised and begin to understand that this dragon is actually what the Mad Hatter turned into. The dragon then explains that the Mad Hatter was never real, and it was just a fake form he used while he was in Wonderland. Just as they are trying to take it all in, Loki suddenly shows up in the sky right above the Mad Hatter, and he has Alice with him, revealing that he had secretly kidnapped her. In response, Hatter quickly shoots a fireball toward them, and right away, the group splits into two pairs to face what's coming. Outside, X quickly grabs Rihanna's arm and tells her they should run away, but she pulls her arm back and tells him she can't leave yet because she has to go back and save Tao and Shane. Then, she turns around and runs off, and soon after, the two of them hide together inside a dark cave. While sitting there, X looks at her and asks if she's feeling cold, then tells her that Tao and Shane are already waiting for them just outside the forest. But Rihanna shakes her head and says she doesn't believe that, because in her mind, anyone can die at any moment. She quietly explains to him that in the land where she was born, everyone she knew died all at once, and it left her completely alone in the world. After hearing her words, X promises Rihanna that he will never leave her side, no matter what happens. He tells her something important he once learned, that even when people face a hard fate, everyone still carries something special, the deep feelings they hold in their hearts as they live their lives. Just then, they hear a sound nearby and discover Tao and Shane hiding close by, thanks to the noise Shane accidentally makes while Tao is trying to secretly listen to their conversation. Shane quickly speaks up and jokes that she didn't see the two of them staring into each other's eyes like they were in a romance story. At that moment, Rihanna tightly hugs both Tao and Shane and starts crying, saying with tears in her eyes that she's really happy they are still alive. Just then, March Hare shows up, and Tao quickly explains that they saw her earlier, but because this place is a different story zone, she doesn't remember them. She's the March Hare from the world of the Looking Glass. Rihanna then asks her if she knows where the White Queen is, and March Hare calmly answers that the White Queen is with her army. She also adds that recently, a strange and dangerous monster has joined the Red Queen's side and is now part of her army. After that, Hatter shows up and right away, Shane jumps at him, ready to attack, but Rihanna quickly tells her to stop because he is just like the March Hare. After calming down, the whole group makes a promise to each other that they will defeat Loki, even though they know this battle won't be easy since it's a fight between two different story zones. Later on, they reach the castle and rush through its halls until they come face to face with Loki and Curly, who welcome them to the Red Army's castle. X then asks why they are placing so many chaos tellers in the story zones, and Curly answers by saying that the church only has one true goal: to keep the world safe by making sure the storyteller never returns. After that, the dragon suddenly charges toward the group and right away, everyone transforms into their hero forms. They all begin fighting the dragon with their special powers and abilities, trying their best to stop him. During the battle, they realize that the dragon's true plan is to absorb both versions of Alice from the different story zones and gain even more power. The fight grows bigger and more intense as they give everything they have to defeat him. After a long and powerful battle, they finally manage to bring the dragon down. But just when they think it's over, Loki appears again and shows them his blank book, which shocks everyone because it means that now he can also form a connection with a hero. Loki then connects with Aladdin and right away, Aladdin jumps into the fight with great strength, almost managing to defeat everyone on his own. After that, the dragon suddenly wakes up again, and as Aladdin charges straight toward Rihanna, X stands up bravely and transforms into someone powerful and special known as Grimm. He slashes the dragon and takes down Aladdin with ease, as if it's no big deal at all. Right after the battle ends, the dragon changes back into Alice and Rihanna begins tuning the world, returning everything back to its normal state. After everything returns to normal, the group now known as the Tao family sets off together on their new mission to face whatever challenges comes next in their journey. How long do you think it'll take for X to unlock his full Grimm powers? Drop a comment if you want part 2 of it. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.